Yeah.
SEC football is back. And out of all 7 conference games being played on Saturday, there is only one ranked versus ranked matchup. And it's a pretty dang good one. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, breaking down everything you need to know for an exciting Saturday morning matchup on the Plains between the 23rd ranked Kentucky Wildcats and the 8th ranked Auburn Tigers. A trendy upset pick for many analysts across the nation. So let's take a moment to take a look at this game, breaking down everything from the offense to the defense to the history, and trying to figure out why so many people like Kentucky in this SEC opener for both programs. The first thing you should look at here is a little bit of history. These two teams have not met since 2015. Obviously, that's to be expected. This is a cross-division matchup. Kentucky out of the SEC East, Auburn out of the SEC West. They wouldn't meet that much anyways. The last 3 meetings between Auburn and Kentucky, though, have been decided by 7 points or less. And there's a very good chance we could be in store for a similar result on Saturday afternoon. Kentucky is coming off an 8-5 season in 2019. A very interesting, unusual season for the Wildcats, guys, because they played the majority of their season with a wide receiver at quarterback. Lynn Bowden taking over quarterback responsibilities when the 2 starters ahead of him went down, when Terry Wilson went down and Sawyer Smith went down as well. Bowden came in, many thought Kentucky's season was over, yet he led the Wildcats to a 6-2 record during his time as starter. That included a thrilling victory over Virginia Tech in the Belk Bowl. Auburn, on the other hand, they're coming off a 9-4 season, highlighted by a thrilling 48-45 victory over Alabama in that season finale, and they do carry a little bit of momentum coming into this season despite Auburn falling to Minnesota in their bowl game. So a very intriguing matchup here, guys. When the SEC released the schedule about a month ago with all the new updated games, this was a game that immediately caught everybody's eye. The opening weekend game between Kentucky and Auburn, one that was probably going to be one of the best SEC games of this weekend. So we're going to take a look at each of the team's offenses here first, and we're going to start with the visiting team. We're going to start with Kentucky. And oddly enough, to some, Kentucky owns a lot of offensive edges in this game. They own a lot of edges against Auburn here, whether it be quarterback, whether it be running back, and especially offensive line. We're going to start with the quarterback, though. That, of course, is the main area for the Wildcats because they finally have a traditional quarterback back under center. Lynn Bowden is gone. He has departed. He's graduated. Now Terry Wilson is back, and that is huge for Kentucky. That is huge for the Wildcats. Wilson was the guy responsible for leading Kentucky to that 10-win season they had back in 2018. He's a guy that back in 2018 completed over 67% of his passes for a little over 1,800 yards, actually nearly 1,900 yards, and 11 touchdowns, but also added over 500 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So he's a dual-threat quarterback. The way he's built, you don't really look at him as that. But if you pressure him in the pocket, he is going to be able to escape. He is going to be able to extend plays, and he is going to make you pay for that. So Terry Wilson is back. The major question is going to be, how rusty will he be? He was injured in that Week 2 victory over Eastern Michigan, second game of the season. So you wonder how rusty he's going to be after nearly a year, a little over a year, of not playing football, and especially without having much practice time due to this whole coronavirus pandemic. So that's going to be a major storyline to watch and something that could really benefit Auburn early on in this game if Wilson is not up to par or fully healthy and looking like his former self early in this matchup. Kentucky, too, though, does have a fantastic pair of running backs, Asim Rose and Kavasier Smoke. The 2 running backs last year combining for over 1,400 rushing yards. And you have to credit a lot of that to what is going to be maybe the best offensive line in the SEC this season. Certainly one of the best offensive lines in the SEC and one of the best offensive lines in the nation. It is an absolutely brutal front five for the Wildcats, and they are not going to allow much pressure on Wilson, and they're going to create a lot of opportunities for their run game. So that's something that Auburn's going to struggle against when we talk about their defense here in a little bit. But Kentucky, very sound across the board, very experienced across the board. 8 returning starters on that offensive side of the ball. How well will it suit them in this opener? For Auburn, they are going through a lot of offensive changes this season. Namely, they have a new offensive coordinator, former Arkansas head coach Chad Morris, now assuming the offensive coordinator role alongside his good friend Gus Malzahn, both of them having a fantastic relationship over the entirety of both of their coaching careers, going all the way back to their high school coaching days. So I think that's a fantastic hire by Gus Malzahn. I genuinely do. A lot of people think could view Chad Morris as a good hire. Some could view it as a bad hire, solely based on what he did at Arkansas, which was horrible. But I think there are a lot of coaches out there that are just better off as coordinators. Some guys just aren't cut out to be a head coach, and I think Chad Morris is one of those people. I think he has a fantastic offensive mind, and I think he can do well here at Auburn. The question is, can he do well here at Auburn in such a short amount of time? Yes, he returns a veteran, an experienced quarterback at least, in Bo Nix. He was a true freshman last year, now steps into his second year as full-time starter with the Tigers. He threw for over 2,500 yards and had 23 total touchdowns in 2019. That's not too bad, all things considered. But Bo Nix was at times very inaccurate, and when he faced elite defenses and better opponents, more elite opponents, whether it be in the non-conference or in the SEC play, he did struggle a little bit. So Chad Morris is going to hope to fix that, and he's going to have to hope to fix it quick, because Auburn is without all 5 of their offensive linemen. They don't return a single offensive lineman from 2019. So Kentucky, they're built very well up front. Auburn, not so much. A lot of inexperience, a lot of youth up on that line, which means Bo Nix could be fighting for his life, and that's going to mean that Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, and Eli Stove, his top 3 wide receivers from last year, are going to have to step up and try to make his day a little bit easier. So a lot of stuff to look at on the offensive side of the ball, guys, and we're going to break down 2 keys for you right now. The first one is Kentucky. What is their offensive key in this game? How are they going to move the ball? To me, if I'm Mark Stoops, I am unleashing Terry Wilson. I know, again, we mentioned how rusty is he going to be. Obviously, you don't want to re-injure Wilson or anything like that. But if I'm Mark Stoops, don't be conservative. Don't be conservative with Terry Wilson. Let him go out there. Let him chunk it deep. Let him go off on a few runs. Utilize a little bit of an RPO there, very much like Lynn Bowden was doing last year. Utilize Terry Wilson as much as you can. Don't worry about the rust. Don't worry about a potential re-injury, because if you play like that, you're going to lose. So let him go out there, play the game, and let's see what happens. The earlier you give him free reign, the earlier you let him just really, again, be unleashed, the better this offense is going to be. If not in this game, certainly in future games. So that's going to be the key for Kentucky. For Auburn, their key is going to be protect Bo Nix. The offensive line is going to be the key in this game. Bo Nix, solid quarterback. Obviously, the offensive line is the major area of concern. So you've got to protect him. And Bo Nix, if you're going to be under pressure, under duress a lot against a solid Kentucky defense, you have to make good decisions. Bo Nix is not a guy that's really going to outrun you. Yes, he's dual threat, but he's not that fast. He's not that elusive as some of these other quarterbacks are. So Bo Nix, if you're going to stand tall in the pocket, you've got to deliver short throws. If I'm Bo Nix, I'm throwing short over the middle. I'm throwing screen passes. And we saw Gus Malzahn do that a handful of times last year. Games against Texas A&M, games against Florida. He really didn't try to force Bo Nix into any uncomfortable or deeper throws. You've got the wide receivers out there that can make the plays for you if you just get the ball to them. So that's going to be the key. Don't try to do anything too fancy. Don't try to do anything that you can't do, because he's still just a sophomore. If you're going to be under pressure, just get the ball to those wide receivers as quick as possible. That's going to be the key for Auburn offensively. Don't try to get too fancy. Defensively, let's start with Kentucky again, because they've got a pretty dang good defense. A couple stats that if you're not familiar with Kentucky, if you still view Kentucky as solely a basketball school, these stats are going to surprise you a lot. The Wildcats return 7 starters from a unit. Listen to this. That was 21st in the country last year in total defense. 21st in the country last year in total defense. They allowed just 19.3 points per game. So the Wildcats had a top 25 defense. Better yet, they had the second-ranked passing defense in the country. The Kentucky Wildcats, the second-ranked passing defense in the country. They allowed just 167.8 passing yards per game. 167.8 passing yards per game. That's unreal. Those are really, really good stats, especially when you're playing in the SEC. And say what you want, that the East is the easier of the two divisions. I don't want to hear it. That's amazing. And a lot of credit should be given to Mark Stoops for what he has done really since day one, since he took over in Lexington, but especially what he has done over these past few seasons with his program. So you've got Yusuf Corker and Brandon Eccles both coming back to lead that secondary for Kentucky. That's really dang good. A lot of experience there. Some two seniors in your secondary that are going to make life very difficult for Bo Nix. All the more reason to not really take many shots deep. Don't challenge Corker and Eccles. Get that ball out a little bit shorter and let the receivers try to make the plays. Don't risk as much when you do that. Auburn, defensively, very much like their offense, they lose some key players. They lose Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson up front on that defensive line. So it would have been interesting to see those guys go up against such a great O-line in Kentucky. That would have been a really interesting storyline and something that I would have been watching all day. Who's going to win that battle in the trenches? But with both of them gone, I can guarantee you Kentucky is going to win that battle in the trenches. They're going to win that battle up front. And I don't expect Auburn to pressure Terry Wilson and Kentucky that often, even though they do have a few key players remaining on that defense. And the beauty for Auburn is while they do lose so much, they do have key players at just about every key position group. You've got Big Cat Bryant on that defensive line. You've got KJ Britt at linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the SEC. I'd put him up there as one of my top linebackers in the country. And then you've got Christian Tutt as well, leading in that secondary. This is still an Auburn defense, guys, that allowed just 19.5 points per game. So both of these teams last year allowed less than 20 points per game on the year. So that's extremely impressive, and that's why I believe that this game is going to be very low scoring. A key for Kentucky defensively, first, is to pressure the heck out of Auburn. That's going to be first and foremost here. Remember, Auburn's offensive line loses 5 offensive line starters. They'll use your entire line, so why not try to utilize that? If I'm Mark Stoops, I am blitzing the heck out of Bo Nix. They don't have much of a running game. Their running back, Tarvius Whitlow, transferred. So it's the Bo Nix show. It's Bo Nix or bust if Auburn wants to win this game. If I'm Kentucky, I'm going after him as much as I can. Make him fear you. Make him uncomfortable in his own stadium. If I'm Auburn, we know you're not going to get much pressure on Terry Wilson. We know you're really not going to be able to stop Asim Rose and Kavasier Smoke that much. You'll stop them, but you're not going to really take too many tackles for losses. So if you're not going to be able to do that, if I am Auburn, I am going to force Terry Wilson to win this game through the air. I'm going to really make sure that the run game doesn't pick up more than 1 to 3 yards per carry. I'd rather it be 1 to 2 or no gain. And force Terry Wilson to win this game through the air because Kentucky in recent years, as we have seen, has been a run-heavy team. We know that. You had Benny Snell. You had Lynn Bowden last year. You've got these 2 great running backs now, and Rose and Smoke. So don't let Kentucky have their way with you defensively. You need to take something away from them because they're going to be pretty balanced. If you can force Terry Wilson to win this game through the air, it's going to make your life as a defense a lot easier. And I'm still not entirely sure if Terry Wilson, if the time calls for it, could lead a potential game-winning drive by solely passing. That's going to be the key for Auburn here. Force Wilson to beat you through the air, and if you can establish that early, it could be a long day for Kentucky. No disrespect to Wilson, no disrespect to that Kentucky wide receiver core, but Auburn certainly does own that edge, in my opinion, and I do think that Wilson will struggle a little bit out of the gate. So again, our final analysis here from Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn on the Plains, the SEC opener, the only ranked versus ranked matchup in the SEC this weekend. We expect a relatively low-scoring game. This is a battle, to me, between 2 defenses. Who's going to give it up first? Which defense is going to give first? Kentucky owns a lot of edges offensively. They own a handful of edges defensively, absolutely. And in a game like this, there's not that much home field advantage either. Auburn going to have limited fans at Hare Stadium, nowhere near what it would be on a regular occasion under normal circumstances. So both, to me, are going to struggle to score. Both are going to struggle to move the ball. And as we've seen out of a handful of teams across the country this season, both are going to start slow. They're going to be very rusty out of the gate. Not much practice time, haven't had much time to prepare. It's been a very, very long time since either of these two teams has really played football legitimately, whether that be a real game or in practice. But at the end of the day, I think the duo of Gus Malzahn and Chad Morris rise to the occasion and exploit just a few weaknesses, just enough weaknesses in this Kentucky defense, and make just enough plays for Bo Nix to lead the Tigers to a season-opening victory. Just enough. They get a little creative. I said don't get fancy if I'm Auburn. And that, to me, is chunking it deep with Bo Nix, trying to make him do something that we know he's not capable of doing. There's nothing wrong with getting creative offensively. Jet sweeps, end arounds, a few trick plays. Nothing wrong with that. And I think Chad Morris is going to utilize his brilliant offensive mind and lead Auburn to a victory late in this game. This game, to me, is going to remind me a lot of Auburn's season-opening victory against Oregon last year. Maybe a game where they struggle early, maybe a game where they're trailing early. But in the end, Bo Nix does come back and lead the Tigers to victory late. And Auburn will escape with a one-possession victory. They will not win by more than 7 points in this game. It's going to be a fantastic matchup, a fantastic way to kick off SEC football, but it's the Tigers that come out 1-0 and 1-0 in conference play. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also make sure to check out everything down in the description below. Follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow us on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We have our weekly newsletter coming out every single week. We have our expert picks coming out. You can still access them for this week, so make sure to go sign up for those. Sign up for the exclusive content on our Patreon account. Content you won't receive anywhere else but on Patreon. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a safe and fun college football weekend, the best week of football we have had so far this season. And we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.